Hello everybody, my name is Power PhD and welcome to Clan AB Assists. Today we're going to be looking at the Assault on the Control Room Bridge Drop, which is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, tricks to do in the Halo Combat Evolved campaign. A couple of things of note first. This can obviously be done on any difficulty within the campaign and can be done either with cooperative or solo play. The first time you attempt this solo especially, you're probably going to find it's going to take you a very long time to get right. It took me over an hour to get this right the first time, but if you just keep practicing you will get it. Another thing that you'll notice is that we use classic mode for this particular trick, and that's because it's easier to spot the landing points in the drops that you're going to be aiming for. So if you want to, have a go at it without, but the landing points that I'm aiming for I'm going to be highlighting on the classic mode, so if you want to try and do it the way that I've done it, it's probably best to do it in classic mode as well. The bridge drop itself is made up of 3 separate drops, the first of which you can either go off of the left hand side or the right hand side of the bridge. The left hand side is easier to get right every time, but is a bit more risky regarding loss of health. The right hand side is the quicker way, which is obviously the speedrunner's way, but is also a little bit trickier to get right. So if you're just looking to do it the easy way, then go the left way. If you're looking to do it the quicker way, go the right way. I'm going to show you both ways off the first bit. There are 3 ways of doing the third drop. In this video I'm just going to show you the safest way because that's the way that I know how to do it. So we'll get started then and we'll look at how to do the bridge drop. The first thing is we're going to encounter a grunt here. The grunt could spawn on either side. Just punch him, get him out of the way. Now all we're going to do is just drop down, and as we land we're going to crouch, and that stops us from losing any major health. And then we'll just jump over this little bit because there's a potential that if you just walk over it you'll slip off and head out into the no man's land of the canyon, which is no good. And there we are in the crook of the ledge, which is where we need to be for the second drop. So we'll now have a look at the right hand route and we'll get back here again in a second. Now the only reason why the right hand route is a little bit more difficult is because you've got to aim for the landing, whereas with the left hand route you just need to drop off straight down. On this one we're looking for a specific black spot, which I'll highlight now. And all we need to do is land just to the right hand side as we look at it back down in the crook, ready for the second drop. Drop 2 is the hardest of the 3 drops. Initially the drop off point can be hard to spot, but it is recognisable as being where the black cliff wall, noted here, meets the cliff ledge, and when you're walking you can actually spot a slight grey mark, which I'll mark as well with the bullet. So as we approach the bullet point, we sidestep slightly to make sure we fall off the ledge but keep walking forwards so that we have forward momentum. We rotate left into the cliff and walk forwards, and then our landing point will come into view. This is identified by the larger grey spot on the right and the smaller grey spot on the left. We are aiming for a point just a smidge to the right of the smaller grey dot on the left. Now I wouldn't take this as gospel, but it appears to me from the practice that I've done, if you land and insta-die on the ledge, then that says to me that I'm landing too far to the right of my landing point. And if you land and then get force pushed out into the no man's land of the canyon, then that says I'm landing too far to the left of my landing point, and that means I can adjust for next time accordingly. I'm not sure if that's gospel, if that is the hard and fast rule of how this particular drop works, but that's what seems to be the case for most of the times that I get it right, so maybe you want to keep that in mind for your drops as well. When we land, we don't want to crouch on this one because that will increase our speed, and that will definitely force us off into the no man's land of the canyon, even if we've got the landing point correct. All you need to do is make sure that you're looking at the cliff wall and walking forwards. If you've got it in the right spot, you won't drop off. Be aware that once you've landed, especially if you're on legendary mode, there is a possibility that a Banshee may attack you, in which case you can either try and outrun it along the edge of the cliff or try and shoot it down with whatever weaponry you have with you. I've found that I can shoot it down relatively easily on legendary mode. So now that we're on the second ledge, I'm going to just do a little guide as well to show you along the ledge because there are a couple of points that may trip you up if you haven't run along it before. Immediately as we head off along, when you want to jump slightly up and to the left because the ledge is a bit too steep for us to actually walk on, we'll slide off into the canyon. At this stage, we want to jump up to the slightly higher level of the ledge. It took me a couple of goes here, but you should be able to do it in one jump normally. You can walk a little bit more forwards as well. Right here, make sure you don't get caught out by the slight V shape here in the cliff wall. If you don't jump over it, then there's a very strong possibility that you might misstep and slide off down into the canyon, which would be a great shame at this point. So just make sure you just hop over it with a quick jump. And then just continue along, hugging the cliff wall. Eventually you'll start to slide out to the right hand side. That's okay, don't worry. Just keep holding forwards with a little bit of left. And then once you come to this corner, again, don't panic. Just keep holding forwards a little bit of left and come round and just make sure you're stabilized. Don't panic and don't over adjust. It should all be okay. And that leaves us with this final drop. Now this drop does look quite intimidating height wise, but it's actually easier to do than the second drop that we've just completed. As you can see, I'm not going right from the corner as a couple of other videos that I've had a look at recommended I do. I'm going from slightly more towards the middle, and then I just find my landing zone, which here is the middle point, highlighted by the highlight and the gun's reticle. And then we just drop off, rotate into the cliff, walking forwards the whole time, and then hopefully we're landing on that corner we aimed at. And I find that as the ground comes into view as we're looking down, I crouch, and that's the bit that helps us survive the landing there. If you don't crouch, it's a very strong possibility that you will insta die. Make sure that you're getting your crouch timing correct, and if you find that even with the crouch you're not surviving the fall, it might be worth looking at slightly moving to the left or the right of your dropping off point. So that's the 3 drops plus the cliff wall run. We'll just play it all back together as one thing now, so we can just look at it all being done as one go. Now with the practice, I do prefer to go off of the right hand side. So drop down just to the front of the first black dot, look for the edge of the black, dropping off, rotating in, right hand side of the small black dot, moving forwards, and up to the left hand side.
I didn't think there were any human forces left on this part of the ring.
Cortana to Fire Team Zulu, I read you. Fire Team Zulu, this is Cortana. Hold position, we're on our way.
Jump up to the side of the cliff wall. Hop over the V shape, keeping to the left. Going from just to the left hand side of the arrow, aiming for the middle spot. Rotate into the wall, walking forwards, and crouch as we land. We've made it down fast enough that we can watch the Pelican fly by. So that was the Assault on the Control Room bridge drop. We found that that's the way that works for us, and if you found that that's the way that works for you, then that's cool. And hopefully we'll see you again for another episode of Clan AB Assists.